Kelly. I'm one of the educators, and I'm happy to talk about 1805 with everybody here. A few little housekeeping notes. That's okay. A few housekeeping notes. We have two ways to communicate to myself and Addie, who's with me today. We have the chat box, and we also have a Q&A box. I urge you to use the Q&A box if you can. If the chat is also fine, the chat can also be directed to just a specific panelists versus all attendees. So sometimes everyone can't see the questions if you do it in the chat, but if you do it in Q&A, you can. Again, I have somebody here to help me through the questions, so please feel free to ask questions as we go forward. I do want to remind you that we will start upgrading your Koha starting in November. And as always, Larry will populate your staff client over here with a big red box that tells you when you're going to be upgraded. It usually gives you about a week out. There is, if you have a problem with that date, please let us know. We will try to accommodate you. These upgrades will start after 8 o'clock your local time. And just all you have to remember is to clear cache in the morning that you get there. So everything works accordingly. I always go around and put Post-its on everyone's computers because I know that's one thing everyone might forget to do is to clear that cache. So I'm going to actually go over to the Bywater website because maybe people haven't seen that we have a new website, which is so exciting. It's a pretty blue. It has updated pictures of all the Bywater staff, and it breaks out a little bit differently than our other website. So I wanted to kind of talk about that for just a second. According to me, how do we change the background? According to me, I think the education is the main focus that everyone should have is this education click. You can, once you're in education, you can go ahead and search for a keyword for any of the blog posts that maybe we've written about holds or reserves or serials, and that can be done right here in this education. You can also search by category, so those how-tos. If you want to do how-tos would be any of the blog posts. Koha upgrades will bring you to your current Koha upgrade. So it will show me my upgrade webinar schedule that Melissa sent out, as well as doing these upgrade notes, which is where I'll be focusing on. I did get a question in the chat box, is how do we change the background on the staff interface? You can see mine's in pretty pink. You can do this through your system preferences, through CSS. This would be system-wide. So if everyone that uses that Koha for your system wants it to be a different color, feel free to do that. It would affect everybody. I have a lot of test sites for different versions of Koha, so I like to keep it by color so I know which one I'm on. Or if maybe you have a test site through your through Bywater, it would say test site in the background. So yes, this is done through the intranet user CSS is that system preference. Thank you, Ed and Matthew. So back to the 1805 upgrade notes. This will actually give you your manual, so you can update that bookmark manual on your computer. It will give you the new schema for 1805. It will give you the release notes. There's about 48 pages of release notes from our developers talking about all the bug fixes, the enhancements, the features that are in this 1805 I believe, 02 version that we are going on. We also have some blog posts already created for the 1805 version to talk about some of the features. This is where those recorded webinar sessions are that I talked about. I'll have to fix this one because it's not clickable, but this will bring you to our YouTube channel to show that What's New webinar. And then below this, it will actually bring you to all the major kind of features, enhancements that are for the 1805. It certainly does not show them all, I can assure you. I think there was a note in my last document that said how many of everything was coming in 1805. And let me grab that, hold on. It was like 12 features. Scroll down. "12 new features, 257 enhancements, and 360 bug fixes." That is the 1805 release. So that's pretty incredible. This is when I give all my love to the developers and the community out there that are making this product amazing each and every time. I'm always so excited. Okay, so if we probably don't have any questions about when you're getting upgraded or where to find our Bywater website, but please, if you haven't gone to see our new website, go ahead and play around. If you have any questions, please let us know. Okay, so I am on the 1805 Opac page. It probably looks somewhat similar to yours. Color scheme may be a little different depending on how you have yours customized. So one of the bigger features that I wanted to talk about is the self-checkout module, which is kind of connected to the Opac. You could say we ran into a little snafu on the first webinar. It does appear that our Koha self-checkout tool does have a few things that we would like to see improved on. But if anyone is familiar with the self-checkout module that Koha has, then you're going to be familiar with the self-check-in module that is now been created for the 1805 release. So just like the self-checkout module, you're actually going to, if you want to enable this, and we'll go through those system preferences, you'll want to take your Opac and then add this little trailing part of the URL that the system preference will give you, so you can actually see what it looks like for that self-check-in module that you can use for your library. So if you maybe have a self-checkout module, you can also have a self-check-in module to allow patrons to check in items to the library. Now, just like with the self-checkout module, you can have a super librarian logged into that computer, or a specific patron allocated to the module itself. And we'll go through that in a second. Once you have those system preferences set up, and we'll talk about those, this is what your screen will look like, and allow your patrons to walk up here and either scan the item if there's a barcode scanner attached, or enter the barcode to check it in. So they would go ahead, add a barcode, hit add, and then they would have to check in. At this point, I did create a bug for this because it's not seeming to trigger any holds or transfers. So I did create a bug for that. And over into the staff client, into my pink staff client, and I'm going to show you those system preferences that go along with the self check-in module. You go ahead and just type in self-check. I should be able to get all my self-check-in modules down here. You can see them here. We have self-check-in main user block. So this would allow for any modifications made to the look of this self-check-in module can be done through this system preference. That's the main user block using HTML. As I was saying, you would need to turn it on. So this self-check-in module, you would just go to enable, and then take this part of the URL and add it to your Opac. You have a self check-in timeout that would tell Koha how long until that the self check-in would log out. Reset, actually reset, not log out. It will say somebody didn't hit that finish. It would go ahead and that reset after so many seconds. And then you can change the look and feel of the self check-in module using this user CSS system preference and user JS system preferences. So those are the system preferences that you would need to enable to start that. So let's go ahead and grab something that Donna has checked out. Check it in through the self check-in module. Looks like she needs to check in some things. Grab that barcode, scan that item, and now I could do multiple check-ins at this point. I could go ahead and scan a few. Let's go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to do that process of check-in. Ghosts. The check-in is ghosts. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit check-in. That will go ahead and return those items. And once I'm done, I can go ahead and hit finish. Now let's go over into Donna's account and make sure that those have been removed. Once I go ahead and finish, that will clear that screen for privacy. Go ahead and refresh that screen. I returned Agatha Christie and Ghosts. So now I'm back to 3 checkouts. So it's just a great new feature. And I think that once that hold can be allocated, that would be a great, this will really help some libraries reduce some librarians' time to be able to check in those items for themselves. Okay. I'm going to pop back over to the Opac. Now, for the libraries that are using serials, this will be really, I think, great to have some information out there for when serials are published in addition to received. So prior to 1805, we could just see the received date of the item, not the actual published date. Taking publication and putting published in there. And I misspoke in my first webinar, so remind me and I will say what I misspoke about. So I'm going to go ahead and go to one of the subscriptions that this library has set up. So if you're using the subscription module, serials module, okay. Once I'm in that subscription tab, you can see I have now a publication date and a receive date. Prior to this, as I said, you only saw the receive date. Now, there was a question about this column of receive date to see if you didn't have to show that. And when we looked at the configure columns in administration, it did not show receive date. However, it's considered planned date in Koha. So let's go look at those configure columns. To configure columns in the Opac, that's under administration. And we did talk about configure columns, and I think the best part about each upgrade is they all kind of like work together, and you can kind of start to see how the back end works. So we have this configure columns in the additional parameters in administration. I got a question about where does it draw the publication date from. So you're going to set up that publication date when you're setting up the serial subscription itself. So you tell Koha when you're setting up your serials, this is the publication date, and then you tell Koha this is a weekly, and then Koha will figure out that publication date from that first time, saying, okay, it's every week, it will come 7 days from this day, 7 days from this day. If you say it's published on the first of the month, then that will be the published date or the publication date. So it's set up in your serials module when you set up the subscription. So here I have my column settings. We did have the addition to this item shelving location in the 1711, which got everyone so excited, but we have also our subscriptions. So really must be subscriptions table. So here I have the ability to change that. And if I just wanted to get rid of the received date and only show the published date, because it may not be necessary for me to tell my patrons when I actually receive them. It would be more important for them to know it was the January issue. So if I go ahead and save that, I'm going to go back to my Opac, refresh that screen. And now I no longer have that receive date, and I just have that publication date, which is generally how library users will know it as the December issue or the first or the 30th issue versus when it was received. Okay, so that is a great new, the ability to customize what your subscription tab looks like for your users. Staying with subscriptions, we also have the ability to, if you're using the serials module and routing lists at your library, your patron can now see when they're part of a routing list on the Opac. Prior to this, when you turned routing lists on for a particular patron within Koha, it was really just viewed on the, sorry about that, it was really just seen on the staff side versus the Opac. Now, if a patron is part of a routing list with your library, they'll have a new tab here, and that tab will say routing list. Now, there was some worry about the purpose of the routing lists if you weren't using them or you were only using the routing lists for a particular patron category. There is no real effect to the routing list. I can't, as the user, do anything but see when what routing list I'm on. So here it says I'm part of the New Yorker routing list. If I needed to make any changes or I wanted to remove myself, I could call the library. There's nothing I can see other than to see what I'm attached to and that actual subscription title. So again, if you're only using this for maybe your faculty's patron category and your students are not part of the routing list, this wouldn't lead them to any information they didn't necessarily need to have. It would just be blank. Okay, another big part of the 1805 Opac, oh, let me go back. I had a question about routing lists. Does this trigger a hold or notice to hold? When an item is received within the serials module that a patron is attached to, they do receive a notice, yes. Okay. Okay. Another new feature on the 1805 Koha is the ability to, this looks like a good one. The ability to add emojis as tags. So are there a lot of libraries out there that are using tagging on their items currently with Koha? You can raise your hand. Oh, I was like I had one raised hand. Not a lot of you, I guess. Okay. Well, okay. So another library has it set up, but nobody uses it. Could start a little campaign to get that going, you know, you never know. Okay, well, we did have a library that wanted to develop the ability to add emoji tags to their items. So this was done by the Hotchkiss School that they thought, wow, wouldn't emojis be great? So maybe for those libraries that have it turned on but they actually don't see anyone using it, this might start a new trend. Okay, so if your tags are enabled on your Koha system, if your tags are enabled on your Koha system, your users would have this add tag ability. So if I clicked my add tag prior to 1805, I could write, for this one, maybe I would put difficult conversations or parenting or something fun. And you could use words to tag this. And it would be another way for users to come across the book like this. Now we can use emojis instead. I don't think that there's much information that we transmit through an emoji to let somebody know that the book is good, other than maybe the thumbs up and thumbs down, the hearts. There's a couple star ones. So way over here to the right, I have this smiley face. So if I click this smiley face, I actually can see the emojis. Now, I think in Andrew's webinar, it was discussed that they removed the emoji we're all thinking about, but we actually were able to find it. So it is there. However, this is the time when you're all like, wow, we're going to start tagging. Remember, you can moderate tags, so you don't have to have every tag that's put out there to be seen. You can turn on tag moderating. So first, a librarian will have to approve it before it can be submitted onto the system. Okay, so if I went ahead and put this little love face and, oh wait, let's find, isn't there like a, let's see. See, oh, isn't there like a little baby? Well, no, there's no babies. Maybe I'll do that family one.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and hit add. I think I did it twice, so I'm going to get an error and I'm going to hit done. Nope. Does it not like my family one? I'm going to go back to my name because I can see the tags that I created for the tagging. I believe I have them moderated, but it should still show up. Let me go back. It's really weird that this is like a dark-haired family and I'm getting a blonde-haired family as my tag. You just passed it on your tags. It's not showing up. Okay, let me add a different one. Very, very strange. Okay, tags added, 1. That's what I was waiting for. Very weird. The 1805 version is on our website, the demo site, so you can go ahead and play around with this to see how you like it. To definitely try it out. Let's see if it's there now. You can see that my tags and tags from other users, the bigger the tag is, the more the more, oh, look, see. Oh my goodness, that was Andrew. I'm going to blame Andrew for that. This has more tags associated with it. So if I click this, I can actually see all the books that got a smiley face within Koha. I can actually also see which one got the 6 brown emojis. Let's see what he put. Oh, well, I guess he didn't love this one. Country Brides. Now, if you are moderating your tags, they will actually show up on your staff client on the bottom half of your here. Also, tags are found through the tools. I know, I thought so too. And somebody asked about the emoji. We don't need to say the word, but somebody said that it was removed, but we found it. So I know it's still out there. But again, you have the ability to moderate. So I can see, look, see, I knew it was Andrew. I'm going to reject that one. I can see the items that got the tag. I can see who left it. Yep, I'm going to go through those system preferences. Great question. If I click the term that got the tag, I can get that result. What does the weight mean for tagging? If something, let me go back to the smiley face got a lot. So it has 13, it's been tagged 13. So that weight is higher, which means the tag will actually look bigger. When we look at the tag cloud, the bigger the tags look, the more times that they've been clicked. So you see how this one is so much bigger compared to this one or this one. This has more weight because it's been used more. That's what weight means. Okay, so let's go into the system preferences and go through those tags. I'm just going to go ahead and go into admin, go into my global system preferences, just do that tag search because I'm going to get most of them right here. So this is your tag enable if you want to allow or don't allow. There's a place you can put it on the details. So if somebody just did a search and you have that brief results, they could actually put tags there, or you can allow them to put it just on that the full detail page where I did it, where I demonstrated it. Tag moderation, so you could hit require or don't require to have tags moderated, which means they would show up onto your staff client or they would just show up on your Opac. And then how many tags show up on that detail page as well as the result page, and you can determine how many that show up. So it's pretty, there's just a few system preferences and you can certainly play around with it and see if that's something you want to allow for your patrons to do. I mean, this could become a thing at some people's libraries. So you never know. Okay, and this is one that we've already done I believe we've already done a blog post on, or it's coming up very soon. I know this is going to really make some people sad, but the Delicious icon to share via Delicious has been removed. So remember when we had these social media tags where we could share this book through Facebook or LinkedIn or your email? It used to include Delicious. Delicious has been removed off that option. There is currently a bug that wants to add Pinterest and Instagram, as well as I just read an article that Google Plus is stopping. So I know, yeah, Google Plus is stopping. So I think at the end of the year. So we'll have to put in a bug for that. So maybe I'll write a note for Google Plus. Okay. Another big feature that does involve the OPAC is the ability to define hierarchical groups within libraries. And the reason that this is something that is through the OPAC is that if you decide to create groups within your Koha system, then that's another way your users could search. So if you had and wanted to create groups within Koha, instead of just branches, you may say, well, these 3 branches actually kind of together are a group of libraries because they all lend within all their libraries. Users can use their library card at all these libraries, but we're connected to a bigger consortium, but just these 3 are their own little group. And you may have little groups throughout your consortium. So grouping of libraries has been created for the 1805 to a degree that we're starting to understand that there's a need to have like this kind of grouping going on. Now, what does that mean for the OPAC? That means that your user can actually search for a group, for something in their group versus looking at everything or saying, well, I could actually see, I need to look if it's at the East branch, and then I need to look at to see if it's at the Northeast branch because I can borrow from both of those. Now your user can do that with one fell swoop. So within the OPAC, about halfway down on your advanced search, you now have the ability of not just searching libraries, but you can search groups of libraries. So within the East group, there are, let's look, I can't remember how many I set up. 2 libraries, library groups. There are 2. So my East group consists of the East branch and the Northeast campus branch. So now as I make a search, I can say, okay, just search these. So something really good. I wasn't part of a consortium, but I can imagine if I could only borrow from certain ones in my consortium, that would make my searching kind of frustrating. Or for colleges that do have different branches, that their student may want to look at their actual college and those branch libraries specifically. So that is the portion of how the grouping will evolve. Sarah asked a question, if groups are set up, how will they transfer? That's a really good question. My assumption, Sarah, would be that they would transfer fine, but I will find out for you because there is grouping already set up in some people's libraries. Prior to 1805, you could set them up in just the libraries. It was called libraries and groups parameter, but I'll let you know, Sarah. Transfer. Perfect. Good question. Okay. This was the first time we did an official early adapter program for libraries to volunteer to get the new Koha version before everybody else, or everybody else with Bywater. And we have a partner that has been updated already, and he said that they transfer. Mercy Hurst joined. And we have somebody's on their test server doing this. And Sarah, they just moved to a new location in the system preference module. So so remember, they were in that libraries and groups, and now there's library groups. So perfect. Good. Thank you. I think that we're going to like these early adapters because they've been able to answer questions as they've been using it on a day-to-day basis. So that is great. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. Another, let me just see if I have I wanted to talk about a couple of bugs that were passed because I think that they were pretty big or important to libraries. One being that prior to 1805, if a patron was waiting for a hold, so the hold was triggered and it was waiting at the library for me to pick up, in the Opac, I could still cancel that. However, if I canceled it on the Opac, there was no way that the circulation desk would ever know I canceled it. There was just no communication. So now the bug that stopped the cancel has been passed. So now if an item status is of the waiting portion in the hold process, there will be no more cancel. The user would need to call the library to say, hey, I know you're holding that book, but I don't need it anymore. So that's a great new bug fix that I think will help a lot of libraries, because it was misleading for the user to think that they were canceling it, and the circulation to desk never to get that actual cancellation. So now if it is in that waiting status, you now cannot cancel it. Oh, this is another bug fix is, I want to say we introduced YouTube videos, waiting and transferring. That's, Wendy, great question. I noticed that it said transferring, and I couldn't cancel it. So it must be waiting and transferring. Go back to my holds, because it's in that process and there's just no way to communicate that cancel. Yep. Perfect. So I want to say that in 1705, maybe, we were so excited to talk about YouTube videos and attaching them to your bib records, whether that on the staff client and on the Opac, and then somehow a bug happened and it wasn't working. Oh, 1605 or 1611 was when we introduced YouTube videos. So there was a bug right soon after this got released, but now it's been fixed. So if you are new to Cohos in 1605, you will have never known that there was YouTube ability, but we can attach YouTube videos to your bib records for the Opac and the staff client if you want, through a little bit of system preferences. So I'll go through those. So I'm going to show you the end result. So I have this Crazy Rich Asians book. As maybe many of you know, that it's become a movie. I've yet to see it yet. And once I set it up, I can actually have a play media button that displays here, and I could play the trailer on the Opac. So you're thinking, wow, this is great. How do I do that on my side? There are a few system preferences that you would set up. So I'm going to go over there, and I think, no. HTML5 media. So your first one you would want to make sure is that your YouTube is enabled, embedded, and whether you want it to be on the Opac and the staff, or just the Opac or just the staff. So that would be that play media tab is what they're talking about there. Okay, now let's go over to that record within our staff client. Okay, perfect. So I do have that play media button here. I'm going to go over to my, I'm just going to show you my Mark preview. All those. So you can see I put the YouTube link in as an 856U. So then I can have that connected to the trailer, or in my case, the trailer of that YouTube video, and connected to the bib record itself. So for any of those libraries that want to use this, it is back working. It is great. It is just fun to have some a little interaction. Perfect. Okay. Oh, good to know. George has said that if you have multiple 856 in your bib record, the YouTube video has to come last. So if you were to have multiple 856 links, you would need to make sure that that YouTube link is last. And currently it is only YouTube videos. It does not work with Vimeo at this moment. I think that's what we've been asked when I remember it getting released, if we were asked about Vimeo. Perfect, thank you, I appreciate it. Okay, another bug fix, which I'm very happy to see happened. We introduced allow, oh, Marsha, are you saying hallelujah YouTube videos? If you're raising your hand, Marsha, go ahead, type in your question either in the chat box or, oh, Barbara raised her hand too, woohoo, or in the Q&A box. I don't think I have any. Oh, are you just saying you're so happy, Marsha? Woo, woo. Let's hope so. Okay. I want to say it was the last release, 1711. They're all kind of melding together at this point, that there was a new system preference called allow checkout notes. Now, this was a system preference that if you turned it on, you could allow your patrons to leave a note about something they've checked out, which would then be communicated to the which would be communicated to the front desk when the item was checked in. Well, when we released it when it was released in 1711, I say we a lot, and I mean the Koha community every time I say we. When the Koha community released it, during our webinars, there were lots of questions from partners to say, well, what if it's not seen at check-in and it gets bypassed, that important note that the patron put on there, or can it get emailed to other people when that note has been sent to the library? So Koha made it better, and better to everybody's help at this point, I think. So the purpose of this is for a user to be able to say something about a book. And I think the purpose was to say, I just want to let you know this DVD is scratched, or it's missing the first page. So the library finds out information about the book that you have checked out. So let's go through the process of what this looks like and how it's been updated. So when I'm on my checkout screen, I have this new column called Note. So let's do this. I'm going to leave a note. Oh, it's a video game. So I'll put disk is scratched. I didn't do it. Okay, so once I go ahead and submit a note to the library, it's actually going to go to an email, the email that's set up in your Koha admin email. So whoever's checking that will actually see a notice to say, Kelly left this note on this item, okay? When the item gets returned, it also will appear as a pop-up to the circulation person to say a note was left about this item. So let's go ahead and check that item in. Okay, grab that barcode, check it in. A lot of notes going on. Okay, so there's my patron note, the date, what the item was, and the note itself. All the others are obviously other reasons why I'm getting lots of notes. Now, question, I have a question. Is this note permanent? It is not permanent. It's living in a table. And I'll find out which table it is. In the issues table under note. So you will not be able to see this note when you look at the item itself. Like there's nothing to tell me a note has been left. And this was one of the issues that users of Koha had before, because it was like, that doesn't really help, because if the circulation desk misses it, then it's lost forever. There were some partners that created a report that you could go ahead and run that report to capture that information. So now we have the ability to see this in other ways versus just circulation staff. Something to note, there is another bug in process being worked on that the patron checkout notes would display on the staff client, like tagging does, like patron modifications do, like purchase suggestions, that main page of the staff client. So that's going to be really exciting. So this goes to the email of the branch email, not the whole system. If you have branch emails set up, then it will go to the branch of the item. So it also, let's go to back to my person. The person that left the note will also get a message, and I'll show you, I have a report that will show you the library's report as well, email. Okay, so I went into the notices of the person that left the note on the Opac and returned it, and I can see that I left a note, disk is scratched. I didn't do it to the item Lego Batman, and it gives me that barcode number. So this, just so you know, has created a new notice within your notices and slips. So let's go ahead and look at that. Checkout note. I'm going to go ahead and edit that. And you can see this is what the note is currently right now. And so you can adjust this if you want. This is where the note is stored under that issues.note. And then I just had it go to attach it to the biblio. It was the biblio number. I apologize. I said barcode. The title, author, and then that biblio number. So that's that notice that's connected to it all. So now let's go ahead, and I created a report that will show me the notice got sent to the library email as well. Maybe if you weren't in the What's New webinar, you didn't know, but this is my new kind of look to the reports module, making it nice and clean. Do I remember what I called it? I don't. Previous. Let me see what this message queue looks like. The question was, I can't find my report. The question was, does the note sent to staff and patron have the same content? Yes, it does. It will say the same thing. There's not a separate note that is sent to the staff. It's just, it's literally what it looks like. What I open my patron notice, it will look like that to the actual admin email. I don't have that report set up, but I can definitely put it in the Q&A so you can look at it or give you a screenshot of what it looks like, but it does show the information. So again, it will be sent to the library admin of the branch. There's a copy of that notice on the patron account, and then it's seen when it gets checked in. And that is the system preference for patron checkout note, allow checkout note, I believe it's called. Allow checkout notes. So that's a new bug fix that allows you to be able to let your patrons not make a phone call and tell you about it, but to have somebody be able to put something about they've checked out. I don't know if you'd believe my note that the disc was scratched and I didn't do it, but you never know. I actually didn't think I could fill an hour with my Opac, but I'm glad that I covered some of the bug fixes that have come through. There were quite a few other bug fixes that are more trivial, but I encourage everyone to go ahead and go through those release notes that will talk about other things that have come through with the 1805. I will record this, and any of the questions that were brought up that I wasn't able to answer, I will put in my Q&A to make sure that you'll get your answers in this new feature. And I appreciate everyone that has been using 1805 for speaking up and helping me know the answers to your difficult questions.